that is training generalist managers. And so we want to train managers with a sustainability mindset. And this involves basically two elements. So first is that all students, no matter which degree they join, maybe the executive MBA program or a program in IT or anything, we need to boost their ecological literacy so that whatever the function you're going to have and whatever your professional job, you are able to apprehend the ecological consequences on your professional life and your job. And secondly, there is a double aspect, which is to develop specific skills and specific areas of expertise to tackle the ecological transition. So here, either the mitigation or adaptation to climate change and planetary boundaries. And of course, what we are going to present is more on the second dimension, right? Because it's a specific class on energy. But really, I want to focus a little bit on the first one because both are related. And also in terms of the internal management of the teams at ESCP, I think it's really important because what we really try to do to boost ecological literacy for all is to develop like dedicated compulsory courses in all programs on sustainability and planetary boundaries. And since 2022, we are in line with the objective of the Jean Jouzel report, which was mentioned by Vinciane, who says that 100% of the students should be trained. And so basically what you see also on the graph here is the evolution of the number of students trained per year. And actually, I just put that to show you that we had a big internal issue to manage, which is a kind of a crisis of growth, basically. And so although in our classes, we talk about the limits to growth and problems related to exponential growth, we had to organize in order to scale. And how did we do that also in terms of context? We created an academic department in 2021, end of 2020, actually, dedicated to sustainability academic department. And today we are about 20 permanent members, professors or affiliate professors, 10 PhD students, but we also have many more people gathering around us in professional networks. And it was very good to create this dedicated area for expertise in order also to leverage competency in the ecosystem. I'm mentioning that because, as you will see, Pierre will also explain how we built on the professional ecosystem to develop the class in energy and strategy. Also within the school, we have this department, but we also have a system of connectors in order for not to be an island. You know, we want to connect with all the departments, but it's super useful for us to have created this academic department because it enabled to scale, to be able to also develop a coherent message and to share also a common set of premises on what the ecological transition means for business and have the right level of radicality among colleagues. So I think retrospectively, it's something that us as colleagues, we are quite proud and happy that we made this decision. So I mentioned also the fact that we created ad hoc generalist classes on planetary boundaries and their impact on business. And you may reflect on the fact that we are in a strategy workshop, and why not simply start by greening existing courses in strategy, in marketing, accounting, finance. And on that, I would like to say that for me, it's really the end point. It's the objective, of course, but it cannot be a starting point. And why is that? Because actually, when we deal with planetary boundaries and climate change and energy topics, actually, we are a bit, as management academics, as the blind and the elephant, meaning that when we go on this through the lens of our existing discipline, we may have a look at part of the elephant, of course, but not the elephant itself. And it's a big issue because we have a huge challenge in terms of the disciplinary gap in management. Here, it's not from me, but I'm referring myself to the article from Nyberg and Wright, Climate Proofing Management Research, where the authors explain, you know, how far we are from a disciplinary point of view to adopt a strong sustainability perspective on these topics. And actually, to develop really the elements in order to grasp the scale and scope of the phenomenon, we need to have much more input from political science, which is easy, but maybe not as easy when it goes to biology, ecology, physics, which are farther away from our management disciplines. And actually, here I really believe that the current conceptual propositions that we have in the field of strategy to address climate change or planetary boundaries are a bit insufficient because they miss part of the elephant, right? We have concepts, of course, such as strategic CSR, stakeholder management, business model innovation, corporate governance, social business, business ethics, but they only touch part of the element. And we need to go much deeper into the physical, biological elements of planetary boundaries to understand the risk. And once we have done that, then we are able to reconstruct also our tools and our objects. And that's really what we try to do through the class on energy. Also, second element, before I leave the floor to Pierre, is the fact that creating dedicated courses on planetary boundaries is super important to be able to spot the elephants in the room. So I'm sorry to use the elephant metaphor all through my presentation. But here, I think one great thing that we did through this dedicated class is to be able to address the obvious but uneasy questions. For example, the links between growth, the fact that business models based on planned obsolescence can be very profitable, but they raise the question of resource scarcity. And there may be huge contradictions in business as usual and planetary boundaries. It's uneasy to approach this question in classic classes. So you need to create first dedicated classes and then engage with the redesign of new types of strategic classes. And so I'm stopping here and I leave the floor to Pierre to present you what we did on the energy class.
So thank you very much, Aurélien. So just like before to start, so we had this chance to develop quite fast the course Energy, Business, Climate and Geopolitics at ESCP because like it's not like out of nowhere, thanks to like Aurélien next to me who has been working on implementing sustainability for like a decade. It went like super faster and easier than starting like from scratch. So basically, if you want, before to go into the course, we actually had these ambitions since the beginning to scale climate education, climate literacy, energy, geopolitics, and so on. And so since last year, we put accessible online, so on the website commons4future.escp.eu. So I'm just going to bring you like a, so here. So that's the website, and you can find all the content for free on the website. So things that are very important to have in mind is like to be able to develop this kind of skills and to create the course. Like it was important to have external teachers coming into the school. So I before was not a teacher at professor at ESCP, and we had as well the chance and the pleasure to receive like experts. Like especially, for instance, from Carbon 4, who came and helped us a lot, especially for stuff like carbon footprint and so on. And finally, very happy to be today presenting these elements to the Shift project, because like we started and learned a lot thanks to the Shifters, which is an association backing the Shift project. Just so few figures to respect the time. So it's a course of 30 hours. We had 5 seasons. So basically it's a course that we developed in an iterative mode. So and we keep like creating a lot of content all the time every semester. We developed the course, like we deploy it for 3 campuses, Paris, London and Berlin. And like since 2 years, for like over the last 2 years, we gave the course to 475 students, mainly Master 2, and we are going to develop it to give it as well to Bachelor 3 starting September 2023. Just in terms of course structure, so that you have the main elements, which was very important for us to bring like really the knowledge in terms of climate change, in terms of energy, in terms of geopolitics first, and it's basically like 40% of the course in the beginning. And then we focus on strategy and management and how to target, how to address these issues. from a company or organization point of view. And this is something which is very important. And to rebound on what said Aurélien, is basically we don't start from the perspective of the company, but we start first, what are the planetary objectives? So let's say respect the Paris Agreement, and then what are the implications for societies? Then what are the implications on economy, companies, and then so what can be your roadmap if you're like leading a company. So we had really like as well this intention to give like a factual analysis, which is sometimes taking with like super powerful dynamics. So when we see like, for instance, the growth of CO2 emissions due to the growth of primary energy consumption, and you want to target net zero CO2 and saying like it's basically like almost easy, you really need to challenge it. And furthermore, we want to challenge the students with really tough realities, which are, for instance, the droughts and fires in 2022 in France, or big dependency in Europe to oil and from countries which are not exactly democracies, and the war in Ukraine. And so just like to keep going on the elephants, we think like it's very important to point out the elephant in the room when we are talking about business, with, for instance, business and climate antagonism. So how do you tackle the fact like for companies important, like always to try to develop and to have a strategy of volume to maximize your revenues and so on, when actually if your revenue generation is based on the production of volume, the volume of production and the exploitation of natural resources, basically you have a very strong link between your revenue and the CO2 emissions, and the reverse is true as well. So really, like, we have this desire to like first start understanding like, what is the problem, and afterwards tackling the actions. Otherwise, you might have a strong bias in the analysis. And final slide, and afterwards, Xavier, I let you the floor. So you have something that is as well super important, just like have feedback for you, is like the student emotions. They are crucial elements for learning. With the topic we are talking about, they are not like, they are super important for the future, for the career, and it's going to be like just the next years. So in terms of feedback, the students have been very, very positive. Basically, the feedback is we want to learn more, but we should not underestimate like angry, sadness, or willing to challenge. Sometimes the course someone with a microphone. And so like we have students like indeed like trying to challenge the course when we're saying like technology will not save us, or cannot be like the only option. A bit over, it's very sorry for the pace. Xavier, the time, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I will try to speak as fast as you. It's a big challenge. Thank you. So thank you very much, Pierre and Aurélien. I'm really glad to speak after you. I'm an associate professor at EM Lyon, and I think it's not a mistake of me being in a business school today talking about that kind of topic, because I was trained as an engineer, and also I did a PhD in physical sciences. So this is something we really want to bring also in our faculty at EM Lyon. And just to give a certain perspective of what was the introduction of Aurélien, really, ideally in a business school, we really try, to infuse that topics, with electives, certain specific special courses, a master program, etc. Then after that, what we tried to build at EM Lyon was to propose a mandatory course, and I was called actually to talk about it, Act for Climate, to give a reference point for everybody. But the ultimate goal, as recalled by Aurélien, is also to redirect the different courses in a business school. But we need to remember that the path and the speed of the academic world is not the same as all the pressure we have out there to adapt our teaching and our knowledge. So we do that step by step. At Lyon, we do that with a program that we called SDGs Inside, meaning we analyze all our pedagogical offer to see if it's connected to SDG or not, and in which way. It's a kind of a taxonomy, you know, and little by little, we translate everything. But this is a process over like 3 years. So it's really intense and it can be quite long. So I'm gonna start sharing my presentation. Yeah, and here, this is here, desktop 2. Yeah, so I just made a wordplay with folie à deux, which is a kind of a psychiatric syndrome, a delusional hallucination between two individuals. Is it compatible to talk about climate change and strategy? Of course, we think it is. And I'm going to talk about Act for Climate. Act for Climate is our mandatory introduction for first-year students. And I think we need to think about what is the kind of value we can bring as a business school. Of course, we need to imagine transdisciplinary courses, but there are many contents out there that are available that we need to orchestrate to present to students. But what is like the value proposition of the business school is maybe in the collision, the intersection of that physical world and organization. And this is what is about Act for Climate. Climate change is not only the physical reality, but this is also the social impact it can have, and also all the levers we can imagine at social level. So this is it's focused on an inductive approach, really to go beyond a certain, you know, polarization of the discourse out there, and the goal is to help students to get a systemic framework to analyze different issues, challenges. Okay, to understand that to find solution, we actually need to understand what are the stakeholders at play. Okay, what are their motivation? There is no one size fits all solution, so there is a space of solution. So this is a transdisciplinary introduction, but this is really our keyword is climate action. Okay, of course, we provide an understanding, first vision with key aspects regarding climate change, with a series of webinars and Climate School, which is a video platform. But the value proposition is focused on helping students to describing climate issues. Okay, around multiple stakeholders, and I will give you certain examples. We use mural for that goal, and after this analysis, there will be able actually to provide recommendations. Okay, what kind of issue we are talking about? Well, it can be at the level of a company such as L'Oréal, what is like the sustainable strategy of L'Oréal by 2030, or at the level of a territory. Okay, you can apply the same system approach to understand what are the challenges and the action plan you can imagine for Barcelona in that case, or to describe a movement such as the Brazilian women engaged in the protection of the Amazon forest. You can guess it now. It's inspired by different work regarding stakeholder theory or the cartography of the mapping of the controversies. And this is something actually we do at scale because we have so much students in first year, like we have 1,200 students. So this is a big class. So we needed to go full online at the beginning. So we created kind of boards, interactive and visual boards on Mural, and the students by group of 6, they will go through this 5-step journey. First, starting from their point of view and defining with the consequence to a problem tree the issue. Then identifying the stakeholders at different level. You can see it's very visual, you know, to maximize the engagement. And then, of course, mapping the relationship, the connection between the different stakeholders with a system map. Okay, this is at that level that we will have a shift between, okay, the understanding of the situation and, okay, is it possible to go back to the root causes of the situation? What's holding the stakeholders back to act actually in order to solve the issue? Finally, you can guess that the fourth session will be focused on providing solutions and organizing the different, prioritizing the different action. And the final session will be going back to their situation. Okay. At the end of the day, we want I can provide you. I see Pierre and Aurélien close to the screen. I can provide you all the content on Mural after it, but I don't have the time here. But at the end of the day, we want actually the student being able to identify within the next 3 years, meaning this is in the first year. So all along their next years at Lyon, will they actually encounter an organization in which they can activate a lever in order to act on the situation. I can give you different example about that. So it's a 1 hour tutoring per board. So there is a meeting and an evaluation every week. So it's pretty intense. And here certain recognition. Okay, I have different feedbacks regarding the content as your old teacher. So this is mandatory for the first year students. Okay, this is the workload. We have a lot of students. Okay, a lot of groups. This is full online, so scalable. But you can guess it. Since this is a mandatory course and this is full online, you can face a great heterogeneity. It can be really tricky to engage students at that level. This is not the same work as a small class. The communication is key. We know that, but actually, I'm shifting my work from a teacher to somewhat that needs to to engage and evangelize that work. So you need to precisely target the information. If it's too much, they won't read it. So it's something you need to be aware of. You can face many frustration in that process in the students here, because they will spend at least 3 weeks to understand the situation, and they always want to go directly to the solution phase. But this is a necessary path. What we had so far, it's the students analyzed approximately 400 topics. So this is huge. We are pretty confident our framework is working for pretty much any kind of topic. It's more an IT project at that level than simply a simple course. Okay, you need to put in place a side organization to manage all the tutors. In the future, we have different goals. Focus not only on climate mitigation and adaptation, but also to broaden, of course, the spectrum, as mentioned in the introduction, on biodiversity, etc. To create an observatory for new climate action approaches. At that level, with that number of topics analyzed, we have really great work from the students. So we really want to highlight them and communicate about it. And finally, as it was made by Pierre and Aurélien, we really want also to open source the approach. It will be applied next year at ENS Lyon. So a different context. This is not a business school. Okay, so I think I have 1 or 2 minutes just to briefly give you an overview of climate strategies for organization, which is an elective that is proposed also for acquiring key tools to face climate change. And I will not be very long about it, because this is it follows the same philosophy as the ESCP course. My key point is, as mentioned, and I know it's we went beyond that. But if you remember the famous article from Porter in 1996, what is strategy? It was all about performing different activities, but also making trade-off. Okay, that notion of being able to say no, making arbitrages when facing, the pursuit of growth over another kind of goals, which is long-term value creation. It's something really special that we need to be and we need to prepare our students to do that. And I will just switch to my syllabus. Yeah. Actually, in that syllabus, we introduced the course with the situation. This is not the same perspective as the previous course, but we introduced the course from the perspective of a company by analyzing the CSR, communication of companies. And this is a step-by-step course. Every time students have a framework to apply, they choose a company at the beginning, and they will rebuild a true strategical report integrating a climate constraint. So basically, at the beginning, we analyze the official communication. Then, as you can guess it, in a double materiality approach, we analyze the physical risk and also the transition risk with different framework. Coming from the IPCC, I4C, and this kind of organization. Of course, in between, we have the impact regarding the carbon footprint assessment, and this is at that level that we talk about carbon budget. The fifth session is all about, framing a future. What is our horizon in terms of business model, constrained business model. As you can see, this is at that moment where we talk about growth and how is it possible to apply certain concepts regarding circular and sufficiency. And the sixth session will be all about connecting the dots between the current situation of the company, the future that we are looking for, and what is the change management we need to put in place. And finally, the seventh session will be an outlook, let's say, regarding certain other concepts, avoided emissions and carbon credits and contribution. And I think it's pretty much time. I have other elements to share with you, but I think I will stop here.
Thank you very much, Xavier, and also Aurélien and Pierre for those presentations. I thought they were very, very interesting and inspiring for teachers. I'm very sorry, though, because it's already time to finish this part of the afternoon. So we're going to have to go join the workshops. So I thought we'd have time for a few questions from the room. We won't. So, well, for those of you who won't join us for the workshop afterwards, I suggest that you can you write to Vinciane. I put her email address in the chat if you want to ask questions. We think we're going to propose to all of you to launch an collective email to continue the exchange and the discussions afterwards. So if you want to join, just write to us, and we will make sure that you are also in this email. So thank you very much for all of you, and for those of you who join us for the workshop, I let you click on the other link that you received by email. Thank you again, and have a nice afternoon.